Today we've got a special guest joining us live. I hope you're streaming on spicefm.co.ke. I love it when we have guests. And Thursday's not too bad today. It's a full house, and I am joined by someone I've been looking forward to host for a long, long time. I'm super excited. Get on it. 94.4 in Nairobi, Kisumu 102.5, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, and Mombasa 87.9. I'm joined by Wendy, the director of Conversations with Wendy. Welcome to the Spice Drive.
Thank you very much. It's very good to be here.
Great to have you here. We are having an interesting trendmill topic, and I put it as an open-ended question, asking people to describe their employer, their boss. Some people said, I'm my own boss, and this is what I am. We saw a lot of praise. We also saw people say things that were quite emotional as they were describing their bosses. I need my boss to be understanding. I need my boss to be a team player. I need my boss to be empathetic. I also need my boss to be present. I've seen fairness being on the list, among many other things. People are looking for a certain kind of leader, looking at the results that we've seen on the conversation today. When it comes to employer branding, this is a conversation that you are passionate about. I've been looking forward to have you here. Tell us about the narrative between the employer and the employee.
Yes, that's actually a very good question. The thing I know about employment from where I sit, other than land issues and money in terms of succession, employment is one of the most emotive issues that comes in next. Because, we spend most of our adult life in employment. And when you come to an employer, you have to be able to find one that helps you to help yourself grow. So you find that there is an employer that is a person that brings you into a situation where they are asking for your skills and they are wishing to compensate you properly for those skills for you to be able to move forward in your career and in your personal growth. Now, the employee is this person that comes into that environment having been given certain kind of promises, and they are expecting that the employer will follow through with those promises so they can remain happy and continue to work together. So essentially, employer branding is how an employer is seeing themselves in the market and how they actually want to be seen and how they have positioned themselves in the market. Whereas the employee looks at this brand and they will react to it differently, just like any other branding exercise that you have, like let's say for Valent, for any of these other products. It's the same way an employer brands themselves. So it's like an invitation to treat. They sit out there and say, hey, this is what I am. And you, the employee, looks at it and say, oh, I can go with this. And then now you merge together. And then when somebody gets into the organization, that's where the proof is in the pudding, as in whether or not that employer actually said to you things that are true.
Wow, interesting. I've seen a tweet about the scariest question you would get at an interview when the employer asks the employee what they are looking for and what they would define as an ideal employer, an ideal boss. Thinking about that question, it sounds scary. And sometimes you don't want to build castles in the air. You don't want to have, that kind of relationship with your employer. You want to be professional. What's the best answer for something like that?
I would always go with honesty. When you start with honesty, you can easily move through the circles of interview questions very easily. A question like that, people need to understand that it doesn't have a correct answer. It's actually looking more for your preparedness. For instance, an employer that asks that is an employer that is actually wanting to know whether or not you're aware what their employer branding is, what the culture of that organization is, and what kind of people they are trying to attract to that culture. So for you to answer that question correctly, you need to have done your research. Do you know the company that you're sitting in for an interview? Do you know what values and ethos they have that they are putting out there? If you know those things, can you say something that will be able to relate you to that particular type of employer? For instance, I would answer that question if somebody is coming to Conversations with Wendy. I would say, I'm a passionate person about people and growth and seeing them into fruition. And I'm looking for an employer that will be able to actually champion my desires to bring out the best in people so that we can work together very symbiotically, where I enjoy what I do and the employer is benefiting from what I do. Something simple like that.
You got the job. You got the job, Wendy. Love it. There's also been interesting articles that I've been seeing popping up on feeds and also podcasts about the changing workplace culture. I think knowing your employer or knowing your boss has nothing to do with face-to-face interaction. We've seen a change in how people work. We've also seen a change in how people interact with their supervisors and their bosses. And the show must go on. Things have been happening and we've made it here. It's August and, organizations have systems that run. What has changed between the employer and the employee, specifically during the pandemic?
The first thing is that the pandemic actually caught quite a number of employers flat-footed completely. We were not tech ready. We were not actually tech willing. There's tech ready and then there's tech willing. People who are really not willing to embrace tech within their organizations. Looking at also the personalities within the organization, you notice that before like 2010, there are 2009, they would tell you in the year 2021, 50% of the people that were working for you are going to be millennials. And guys didn't realize that. And then smack pandemic millennials in your workplace, and people had to quickly adapt to what is happening around them. The employers that had gotten with it are employers that actually changed very swiftly. Looking at internally in Kenya, employers like Safaricom, ABL, these people they just continued. Looking externally, employers, especially in the areas of entertainment, the Twitters and other social medias, these people just moved on. But if you go and see your proper suit and tie type of employers, very few were able to move on that quickly. But the Deloitte of this world actually moved on. The LinkedIn of this world actually moved on. But then we got to a space where the employers and also the employees had thought that the pandemic is going to be a 2-month thing. It's a 3-month thing. And then you notice, hey, it's 1 year. This thing is here. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
So you find that there is those people who have adapted completely, where they have done the complete mix of the work from home and work from the office. There is others who actually realize that there's absolutely no need to work in the office and they're working from home. But the delicate balance comes for you when you notice that as much as you are as an employer is branding yourself towards the market for employees, you're also branding yourself as an employer of specific kind to the people that are receiving the services and or goods that you're offering. So, that balance has to be very delicate. Am I going to let my people work from home or from wherever every day? What if they're going to meet a client? Are they going to actually portray the image that I want to be portrayed as a brand to those clients? What if they are coming to the office and then they get sick? What do I do? Because if you look at the different government advisories that have been given with regards to COVID-19, it's actually been sort of advised that it is an occupational health issue. So the only thing is that if somebody is actually able to prove that I did contract COVID, in fact, from the office, then the employer becomes liable. So there's quite a number of issues and balancing interests that are there. But for me, the thing that is very clear is an employer who was talking to their employees honestly, an employer who showed leadership with empathy, got employees to become understanding, got them to be committed, got them to be concerned, and they were willing to change with the pace of the organization. So whether or not you were prepared, just that dialogue between you and your employees was the thing that was a make or break for your organization.
Brilliant. Well said. I'm a huge fan of your platforms, Twitter. I love the tweets that you have. I love how very simple it is to understand your content. And you have this hashtag conversations with Wendy. And one of the tweets that stood out for me was the different employer brands. And it is my last question and how you broke that down. And of course, just a breakdown of these 4. I think you've got 4 of them. On our social media, people have their own definition of, the different employers. And that was great as we built up to this interview. Can you break down these categories and the types of employers today?
Oh, yes. So within the practice of human resource management and within the labor ecosystem, there is actually just 4 distinct definitions of the different kinds of employer brands. So, of course, you have number 1, your employer of cash. Who is this employer of cash? This is a person that has a lot of money. They're throwing it around, but that's just it. Once you get the money, there is nothing else they're going to give you that is of value. You notice that the jobs might actually be quite repetitive and they are not very keen on whether you stay or not, because after all, they can't can get people and they can't get people really quickly. So all they are offering you is money. And then you see the resource employers of value. These are the people who say, fine, I don't have the money that guys have in the market here. I don't have the kind of competitive advantage that I'll give you in terms of money, but I'll give you my word that when you come to my organization and you work with me, what I promised is what I will deliver. What we agreed upon is what you will get. We will grow together. You can trust me and I can trust you. That's an employer of value. Then you have the employers of churn, which are quite a number of employers currently within the market. These are the employers who are just recycling people. They're just recycling people. I mean, it's a revolving door continuously. There's no any direction on whether they're paying you well. It's not whether or not they're promising and delivering. It's just a revolving door. Somebody comes in, they go out. They come in, they go out. You notice that these employers, many at times, they wouldn't even have values that are clear to their teams. They wouldn't have simple things like a salary structure, a career development path. They don't have a leadership that makes sense. There's no organizational properties or structures that you can be able to say, hey, this is what's going on in this organization. So they're just churning numbers. Right. This one comes in, that one goes out. Right. Then you have your employer of choice. Your employer of choice is the one who has considered cash because they know that at the center of everything else, money actually counts a lot in terms of employment. They have considered values and said, you know what, if I put money where my mouth is at and I give you good values, you trust me, then that's something we can do together. They have taken time to consider that behind that employee is actually a person. So they have considered how they will bring you into the workplace with you being a person, how your work will balance with the life that you have, how you will celebrate the little things that are occurring to you in life, how you can be able to be vulnerable with them as a human being and say, hey, this is going on with me right now. I need some minutes off. You find that organizations like this have very clear management structures. They have very clear pay structure, salary grids, the type of career growth, career pathing. They have a very clear development process. They also have a very clear wellness program, very inclusive in terms of all the matters that are going on in the world, in things, gender, and also just a definition of persons. You see, these employers are very few. And when I speak like this, you can be able to start seeing who that employer is. And you notice that those people, they have branded themselves in such a way that they're actually repelling the people who do not fit within their ethos. Yeah.
Right. Well said. We're learning a lot, and I'm interested in your platform so that we can share your platforms with everybody else so that they can get to engage with you a little bit more. Where can we find you on social media?
So we are on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram at Conversations with Wendy. We have a YouTube channel on the same name, and our website is just going to come up really soon. You can always reach out to me or to any of my team members at info@conversationswithwendy.org, and we'll be very, very interested to, interact and do great things together.
Oh, this is great. It's really nice chatting with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Wandera Kweyu, the Director of Conversations with Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Spice Drive.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're a good chat.